Good evening, everyone. This is Student Meteorologist Eric Drewitz with Weather International. Currently, we are looking at the 500 millibar pattern throughout the world, focused in on North America. And as you see, we have a huge ridge of high pressure over Texas and the Central Plains, which is responsible for excessive heat throughout this region. And to the northeast of that, we have an upper level low over here in the Canadian Maritimes, which is responsible for bringing showers and rain to this region. We have a nice jet max here, I like to point out, at about 20 degrees west and 48 degrees north, and then going a little more east into Europe, we have a huge ridge over Eastern Europe in areas like Poland and Romania, and a little bit of a dip in the jet stream over Western Germany. So, moving into Asia, we are seeing a bunch of low pressure systems in Eastern Asia, as well as a decent high pressure system off the coast of Japan. And as you see, we also have a little bit of a dip in the jet stream around Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. And going a little bit west into Europe, you can see that with the surface temperatures and winds, you have warmer than normal temperatures over Eastern Europe. We have some nice warm temperatures over here of about 22, 23 degrees Celsius. And if you look at the plains, going back to the United States, we have some excessive heat across the southern plains and throughout the region, even extending up, even some decent heat extending up into the Nunavut, southern Nunavut province of Canada, of almost 23 degrees Celsius temperatures. That's pretty impressive. Now, going into some of the teleconnections, which are really good ways to kind of explain what the pattern and the trends. First of all, we have the NAO, or the North Atlantic Oscillation. And this, to give a little bit of a background on this, is in positive NAO phases, ridging is favored in the eastern United States, while negative phases, troughing, is favored. So, the NAO looks like it's trending more positive. However, it looks like it'll level off around 0. So the NAO looks pretty negligible at this time. And one thing I might add is that teleconnection influences are much more impactful in the wintertime than in the summertime. But usually a positive NAO means warmer than normal temperatures across the eastern United States, while negative NAO means cooler than normal temperatures across the eastern United States. Now going into the PNA, looks like the PNA is about neutral. However, it looks like into August it's starting to trend a little bit negative. Now, usually a negative PNA correlates to a trough over the Pacific. Now, that I don't think that'll be the case. I don't think, even though the PNA will be negative, the trough over the Pacific causing warmer than normal temperatures in the eastern United States, I don't think that'll be the case, and I'll get to that later in this video with one of my favorite teleconnections. Now, quickly looking at the Arctic Oscillation, or the AO, it looks like it'll stay about relatively the same into August, relatively weak, and in the negative phase. And the Arctic Oscillation usually positive phase favors warmer than normal temperatures across the eastern United States, while negative favors cooler than normal temperatures across the eastern United States. Now, getting into my favorite teleconnection, or the PDO, Pacific Decadal Oscillation. This was actually a big player over the past winter that we've had. So, it looks like for the past several years, we've been more in a negative PDO phase. However, this past year, we've had that huge ridge over the Pacific and the western United States, causing a major dip in the jet stream over the eastern United States, bringing extremely cold temperatures to the region. I know Syracuse had their coldest February ever recorded on record in history. And that is the thing. I think that has to do with the PDO phase. Because positive PDO, or warmer than normal temperature anomalies across the northern Pacific and off the coast of southern Alaska, which is what this shows, we have areas of water temperatures above 15 degrees Celsius or 59 degrees Fahrenheit, which is usually pretty warm in my book for the southern coast of Alaska. So these warmer than normal temperatures enhance ridging over the Pacific, and that coupled with, as well as a let's see right here, we are around the 26th of July, coupled with looks like a weekly positive EPO, or Eastern Pacific Oscillation. Now, I have a little bit of a graphic here from the CPC about EPO, because EPO isn't exactly the most popular teleconnection. Now, looks like a positive EPO phase, or what these diagrams represent, is cooler than normal temperatures across the eastern United States with warmer than normal temperatures across the western United States. So that, coupled with a positive PDO, could really enhance the ridge trough ridge across the continent. Now, looking ahead, there is a little bit of a correlation, a very weak correlation, according to the University of Alaska Fairbanks, between El Nino and PDO. We have a very strong El Nino in the Pacific right now. Now, it looks like over the past few years, our last decent El Nino was 2009-2010. Now, you're going to ask me probably, Eric, why was 2009, 2010 a very snowy winter for the I-95 corridor, even though it was an El Nino year, which usually means warmer than normal temperatures across the eastern United States? Well, the reasoning on that is we had a very good Greenland blocking scenario, or a blocking high pressure scenario over Greenland, enhancing a ridge over the Atlantic, and a nice dip in the jet stream across the I-95 corridor, which enhanced the storm, which created the storm track to tap Gulf moisture and to bring storms up the coast and have blockbuster East Coast snowstorms that we all love. Now, getting into this graphic a little bit, there's a little bit to explain the correlation between the PDO phase and the El Nino. Currently, this is the 87, so I'm sorry. Anyway, 97-98 year. And it looks like the PDO is pretty strongly positive during this year. Coincidentally, the 97-98 year was one of the strongest El Nino years on record. Now, you're going to say, well, I thought you said it was a weak correlation. Well, if we go back in time, like where we just were at, strange. No, let me scroll back. Okay, there we go. We were just looking at the, I believe, 82-83. That looks like it was the second strongest El Nino year since January of 1950. Now, looking at the PDO for 82-83, it looks like the PDO is mainly negative. Now, I have this graphic here from the University of Alaska at Fairbanks that shows over here, this is the PDO phase, and here's the El Nino, or the Southern Oscillation phase. And in the El Nino years, positive PDO's favor looks like warmer than normal temperatures, just like an El Nino over here, and a negative phase, cooler than normal temperatures across the Pacific, just like a La Nina. However, it has been found that, sorry about that, the climate signal of El Nino is likely to be stronger when the PDO is highly positive. Conversely, the climate change signal of La Nina will be stronger when the PDO is highly negative. This does not mean that the PDO physically controls the El Nino Southern Oscillation. However, they interact with each other. So there is a bit of a correlation between the two patterns, and you can kind of see that based on statistics. Now, getting into a little bit of with the forecast and the explanation of the forecast. Well, the NAO looks like we could kind of ignore that for a little bit, because that looks like it's about going to be about neutral. The PNA is trending slightly negative, which, getting back to what I was saying earlier, I do not think the PNA, even though it's negative, will cause a dip in the jet stream really over the Pacific, because of that really strong positive PDO pattern. I think that is going to dominate everything. The AO, we're just going to not really talk much about, because it's pretty much neutral and it's not really changing that much. But the PDO, these real warm temperature anomalies off the coast of Alaska is really going to enhance a trough ridge pattern, and you're going to see that in the 500 millibar height anomalies, which I'm going to get to next. Now, the EPO looks like it's going to stay relatively weak, close to neutral. However, it looks like it might go a little bit negative when we get into August. Going into the 500 millibar high anomalies. These are ensembles of the GFS and the Euro. Let's first take a look at the Euro ensemble with the EPS. And as you see, this is the 12Z run today of the EPS. And as you see, we have that nice, the initial analysis again, we have that nice ridge of high pressure over the plains and that upper level low here over the Canadian Maritimes. Now, as we go ahead a few days, actually I'll use this because this actually is better representation. You see that we have a very, we have a ridge over here in the Eastern Pacific. Now, this is around at 12Z Monday on the 27th. So, this looks like it could be dealing with the EPO a little bit. And it looks like the EPO is kind of trending a little less positive, although it doesn't look like it's going negative. However, that could be a little bit of a factor in this. Now, getting more forward in time here. Now, this is July 31st. Let's get into August a little bit. All right. Okay, here's August 3rd. Looks like we have cooler anomalies, lower height anomalies over the east, and good ridging along the western states and the western coast. However, it looks like we have a little bit of an upper level low here forming off in the center Pacific, which will bring cooler than normal anomalies to the region. Although one thing I would like to point out, it looks like we have some real warm anomalies over here over northern Russia. So that could be, you know, that looks like it's pretty significant over there. Now getting into the more to the GFS ensembles, again, very warm anomalies off the coast of Russia, and this is August 1st. So again, it's consistent with the beginning of August. Heading back to August 3rd, you know, cooler than normal anomalies in the east, but warmer in the west. It looks like that ridge that's currently over the central United States will shift a little bit westward, and that will induce a lot more heat across the western United States, and bring cooler than temperatures in the east in the next couple weeks. However, there will be a bit of a warm up in the east towards the end of this week with a big ridge of these real warm anomalies at 500 millibars across the eastern United States. So summer is not gone yet. However, it does look like the ridge in the west will persist according to the GEFS ensemble. Now just do a quick cross check with the European ensemble. And the European ensemble actually shows that even stronger trough in the east and a bigger ridge in the west. Now, with the current teleconnections, the GFS has a positive NAO bias, while the European ECMWF has a positive PNA bias. Now, these biases kind of determine which model would you want to choose more. Currently, I'm favoring the GFS a little bit more, just because, yeah, even though the NAO is still going to be negative, it's going to be relatively neutral, while the PNA kind of decreases a bit more significant. So favoring with the model's bias of favoring what teleconnection patterns they like better. I think right now I might be more inclined to favor the GFS over the European. So now heading into actually, before we head into the 500 millibar heights of vorticity, we can take a quick look at some CFS monthlies. So these are height anomalies over the northern hemisphere for the month. So this is August. This is the 0Z run on Saturday the 25th. So 0Z today. This is valid for August 2015. Now, it looks like, as I said, it looked like we were getting into a bit of a cooler than normal pattern in August. The CFS, or the Climate Forecast System, agrees with that. It looks like it shows that ridge is going to persist and dominate the western United States, and that trough will set up in the east. Now, getting into September, it looks like that trough will move a little bit east, although the ridge will enhance more in the west, and looks like some real nice warm anomalies over the northwestern United States. But it doesn't look like the trough will be enhanced in the east as much. And now getting into October, really warm anomalies in areas like Saskatchewan and Manitoba, and now starting to make its way east into Ontario province and Quebec province and the Great Lakes region. And as you see, this kind of explains what I was saying about earlier. It looks like we have some cooler than normal anomalies in the Pacific region, which will enhance warmer than normal temperatures across the eastern United States. Now moving into October, actually, that was October. Now moving into November, again, looks like some warm anomalies in Canada, although now it looks like there's a little bit more of a ridging place taking place over areas like British Columbia, Yukon Territories, Northwest Territories, Alaska in November. And now we're getting into the interesting part because December, the onset of winter, doesn't look like what I wanted, but real warm anomalies over areas again like Saskatchewan, Manitoba, into Ontario province and Quebec, and getting into northeastern United States. And I think January we're having some real warm anomalies according to the CFS here. Now, even though the CFS is outputting all these really warm anomalies in the east, I mean, look at that. I mean, Newfoundland, Labrador, Quebec, Ontario, into Manitoba, very, very warm. But the thing about this is what kind of, makes me a little bit leery on the CFS's output is I think it's kind of downplaying the PDO. PDO is very, very positive. I do not expect the anomalies to be that warm due to the current PDO phase. And the PDO is usually a slower teleconnection to change. It's more of a steady teleconnection. It doesn't change as frequently as the NAO and the PNA from what I've seen looking at data throughout history. So I think the CFS is kind of having a warm bias in this case because of the really warm anomalies it's outputting across the eastern United States, because usually a PDO that's positive, you would think it would kind of produce a winter like last winter. Now, I do not expect this winter to be as cold. I expect, for example, upstate New York to get more ice than snow this winter because of the warm anomalies for the winter. However, the positive PDO phase makes me kind of question on how warm those anomalies will actually be. But I do expect, just because the trends and the signals that I've been getting, the anomalies during the winter months this year are going to be warm across the northeast United States. So I am expecting more in the way of rain for the I-95 corridor, and more ice in upstate New York. Although I think that the lake effect season might not be as intense this year because of these warm anomalies, coupled with usually these kind of patterns favor below normal precipitation across the eastern United States. However, I do think with this positive PDO, maybe you could enhance some lake effect in the western lakes, because positive PDO will kind of will make a huge ridge which will drive a northwesterly synoptic flow over the western Great Lakes, bringing in colder air from provinces such as like Nunavut and Northwest Territories in Canada, which will kind of maybe crank up the lake effect machine. That's the only argument I can really make for a good, a decent lake effect season. But sadly, along the shores of Ontario, I think I'm anticipating this lake effect season to be very weak. Now, kind of moving into more of the shorter scale here, just to finish up on that, because this is more of a geared to be a longer range discussion. Just looking at some of the 500 millibar vorticity and heights, just to show you again what the extended range models are showing. This is the NAM. One thing that I like to point out that's consistent with all the models is it has a very, very strong upper level low moving around the 49th parallel region across the northern continental U.S. and in southern Canada provinces. And then so that was the 18Z run of the NAM. Here's the 18Z run of the GFS, and again, shows real strong upper level low moving along around the 49th parallel. Looks like its strongest will be in northern Montana, northern North Dakota, southern Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. So that's something definitely to keep an eye out in the middle of the week, because that'll definitely produce some good showers and some good rain and storms throughout that region, and also give the northern plains a bit of a break from the heat due to the upper level low, bringing in some cooler air from Canada, and as well as precipitation is a cooling process after all, so it will bring a little bit of heat relief for the northern plains. However, I don't see the southern plains really getting a break from all the heat. And as you see, all the models are kind of pushing that ridge, that 500, pretty much that 594 decameter ridge back into the Four Corners region, which will make it a lot hotter across the western United States, and maybe a little bit cooler across the northeast as time goes on. So this has been a long-range discussion with student meteorologist Eric Drewitz, and I'm about to sign off. So thank you for watching, everybody, and have an awesome day.